Stop. Before you skip this video, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to tell you in the next 10 seconds could completely change how you see Lamine Yamal, and honestly, it might shock you. It's May 2026. The World Cup is 42 days away. The most talented 18-year-old football has ever seen is sitting in a rehab room at Barcelona's training complex, not on the pitch. And right now, the whole world is asking one question: will he make it? But here's what nobody is telling you. There is a secret plan. A plan so carefully hidden, so perfectly calculated, that even most football journalists have missed the real story. And in this video, I'm going to expose every single detail of it, including something that Spain's own coach accidentally revealed that tells us exactly what is going to happen at the World Cup. Stay with me. Because this is not just about an injury. This is about the most important 42 days in Lamine Yamal's entire life. Let me take you back to April 22, 2026. Barcelona vs Celta Vigo. Lamine Yamal scores a penalty, the stadium erupts, and then, in a moment that froze the hearts of millions, he limps off the pitch clutching his left leg. The medical team rushes on. The cameras zoom in. And in that single moment, the dream of a generation suddenly looked very fragile. The diagnosis came quickly: partial tear of the biceps femoris in his left leg. 6 to 8 weeks. Barcelona's season was over for him. But here's where it gets interesting. Because the very next morning, the phone calls started. Not just from doctors, from the highest levels of football politics. Barcelona versus Spain. Club versus country. Two giants quietly negotiating the future of a teenager. And what they agreed to behind closed doors is something I'm going to reveal later in this video that will genuinely surprise you. But first, I need you to stay with me for just 10 more seconds. Because what I'm about to tell you next is something that even the most hardcore football fans don't know. Something that was buried in a press conference, quietly mentioned and then ignored by most media. And it might be the single biggest key to understanding whether Spain wins the 2026 World Cup. Ready? Keep watching. Let's start from the beginning, the real beginning. Lamine Yamal has played 3,702 minutes this season for Barcelona. Think about that number. That's more than most experienced professionals. And he's 18 years old. This season alone he has suffered 4 separate physical setbacks. 4. Legend Ruud Gullit warned about this months ago. He said the workload was dangerous, comparing it to what happened with Pedri and Gavi, 2 other Barcelona young stars whose careers were disrupted by injury. Nobody listened. Then April 22nd happened. Now, the medical reality here matters. A partial tear of the biceps femoris, that's a hamstring muscle, is not just painful. It carries a very high risk of relapse. Rush back too early, and you don't just miss a few games. You could miss months. You could potentially suffer a more serious tear. This is why Barcelona were terrified from day one. And this is why the secret negotiations began. According to multiple Spanish sources including Diario Sport, Barcelona and the Spanish Football Federation, the RFEF, held several private meetings in the days after the injury. What came out of those meetings is extraordinary. Spain's coach Luis de la Fuente made Barcelona a promise. He told them, Lamine will not start the first 2 group games of the World Cup. He will come off the bench. He will be managed minute by minute. The plan is to build him up slowly through the group stage, Cape Verde on June 15th, Saudi Arabia on June 21st, and have him at full power by the knockout stages. De la Fuente even used an example that tells you everything about his strategy. He mentioned Dani Olmo at Euro 2024. Olmo arrived to that tournament injured. The coach almost left him out entirely. But he kept him, used him carefully, and Olmo ended up being one of the most decisive players from the quarterfinals onward. Spain won the whole tournament. De la Fuente is betting he can do the exact same thing with Yamal. But here's the suspense, and this is what I want you to really think about. There is one match in the group stage that complicates everything. June 26th, Spain vs Uruguay. That is a dangerous game. Uruguay are not Cape Verde or Saudi Arabia. If Spain need Yamal against Uruguay, will they stick to the plan? Or will they throw him in before he's fully ready and risk everything? I'll answer that question in just a few minutes. But first, keep watching. Now I want to tell you something that Spain's coach said this week that barely got any attention, but to me, it is one of the most fascinating things I've heard about any footballer in years. Luis de la Fuente, while presenting his autobiography, spoke about Lamine Yamal's work ethic. And he used a phrase that stopped me completely. He called it invisible training. He said, Yamal trains 3 hours every single day even while injured. He goes to the gym. He sees his physio. He visits his nutritionist. He works with a psychologist. And then, and this is the key, de la Fuente said Lamine is thinking about his work 24 hours a day. He called this the invisible training. The training nobody sees. The training that doesn't show up in stats or highlight reels. And he said, "Nobody gives Lamine anything." Think about that. This is an 18-year-old kid. At his age, most people are worrying about nothing. And this boy is obsessed with becoming the best in the world. Completely obsessed. That mindset is why Fabrizio Romano, the most trusted transfer journalist on the planet, reported this week that Yamal is already back on grass, already back training with the ball, and is expected to be ready for the World Cup. 2 weeks after a serious hamstring tear. Back on grass. That is either incredible recovery, or incredible risk. And which one it turns out to be will define the next chapter of the 2026 World Cup story. Now I have to give you the other side. The side nobody wants to talk about. What if the plan fails? What if Yamal suffers a relapse in training? What if he arrives at the World Cup and genuinely cannot play the first 3 matches? Does Spain still win the tournament? Here's what makes this so fascinating. Spain actually have cover. Yeremy Pino has been exceptional in the Premier League this season. He's fit, he's sharp, he's hungry. The La Fuente can use him in the group stage and keep Yamal completely fresh. In theory, Spain don't need Yamal to beat Cape Verde or Saudi Arabia. And Uruguay on June 26th, while tough, is manageable without him. The real question is the knockout stage. Because from June 30th onwards, Spain will face the best teams in the world. Brazil, France, England, Germany, Argentina. You cannot beat those teams without your best player. And Lamine Yamal, even at 18, even coming off an injury, is Spain's best player. It's not even close. So the pressure on these next 42 days is immense. Every single session, every single morning he wakes up and feels that hamstring. That is a moment that will either make or break the World Cup for an entire nation of 47 million people. Before I get to the ending, and trust me, there is something I've saved for the very end of this video that I think will genuinely surprise even the biggest Yamal fans. I want to take a step back and talk about who this boy actually is. Because sometimes in the rush of news and injury updates and tactical debates, we forget. Lamine Yamal is 18 years old. He was born on July 13, 2007. On the night Spain won Euro 2024, one of the most iconic moments in football history happened. Yamal scored that incredible curling goal against France in the semi-final. He was 16 years old. 16. He became the youngest player ever to play for Spain's senior team. The youngest player ever to score at a European Championship. And this season, despite 4 injuries and playing under enormous pressure, he finished as Barcelona's top scorer with 24 goals. At 18. Pelé, Mbappé, Messi, Ronaldo, people throw all of these names around when they talk about Yamal. But what makes him different, what makes this World Cup moment so significant, is the timing. Because if he stays healthy, even just healthy enough, this could be the tournament where the world finally agrees. There is no debate anymore. This is the best young player in the history of the game. And the fact that it might all depend on a single hamstring muscle, that is the beautiful, cruel drama of football. Now, I promise you something at the start of this video. Something I saved for the end. Something that even serious football fans might not know. Here it is. May 11th, 2026, just 4 days from now. Every national team in the world must submit to FIFA a preliminary squad list of between 35 and 55 players. This is the first official moment of truth. If Lamine Yamal's name is on that list, it tells us Barcelona and Spain believe he will make it. If his name is missing, or if there is any hesitation, it will be the biggest story in world football overnight. And here is the detail nobody is reporting clearly enough. Barcelona have reportedly asked Spain to have a Barcelona club physio travel with Yamal to the entire World Cup. Not just a national team doctor, a Barcelona physio. Someone who knows his body specifically. Someone who knows exactly where his limits are. The fact that this was even requested tells you how serious the concern still is behind the scenes. They are confident. But they are not relaxed. And that difference, between confident and relaxed, is everything. So subscribe to this channel. Because in 4 days, when those squad lists are submitted, I will be breaking down every detail live. And if anything changes with Yamal between now and June 15th, the first match, you will hear about it here first. Lamine Yamal and the 2026 World Cup. The most important 42 days of a generation. The story is just beginning. Now let's talk about something nobody wants to say out loud. While Spain fans are refreshing injury updates every morning hoping for good news, there are entire national teams, entire coaching staffs, sitting in their training facilities right now quietly hoping that Lamine Yamal does not recover in time. Let's be honest about who those teams are. France. They remember June 2024. Euro semi-final. Yamal received the ball on the left side, cut inside, and curled a shot into the top corner from outside the box that left Mike Maignan completely helpless. France were knocked out. Kylian Mbappé, their own generational talent, was invisible that night. After the match, French journalists wrote that they had just witnessed something frightening. A 16-year-old had destroyed their World Cup winning squad. Now imagine that same player, 2 years older, 2 years stronger, arriving at the 2026 World Cup with a point to prove after an injury that nearly ended his tournament. France know what a fully fit Yamal does to their defensive structure. They are terrified. Then there is Argentina. Lionel Messi's Argentina. The defending World Cup champions. And here is where it gets deeply personal, because the story of Lamine Yamal and Lionel Messi is one of the most poetic storylines in modern football. There is a famous photograph taken in 2007, the year Yamal was born, showing Messi holding a baby at a charity event in Barcelona. That baby, and you already know what I'm going to say, was Lamine Yamal. The greatest player of his generation, unknowingly holding the player who would one day challenge his legacy. If Argentina and Spain meet in the knockout stages of this World Cup, and the draw makes that entirely possible, it will be the single most watched football match in years. A healthy Yamal against Argentina's defense is a nightmare matchup. An injured Yamal gives Argentina a completely different game to plan for. And then there is Brazil, England, Germany. Every heavyweight in that tournament has a tactical plan built around neutralizing Spain's left side. And every single one of those plans falls apart if Yamal is at 100%. The injury has not just affected Spain. It has shifted the entire power balance of the 2026 World Cup. Teams that were quietly nervous are now cautiously optimistic. And teams that were already confident are watching those Barcelona training ground updates with extreme attention. Because 42 days from now, when the opening whistle blows, the most important question in world football will be answered. Is he ready? Here is something that I think is genuinely underreported in all of this coverage. We talk about the hamstring. We talk about the timeline. We talk about the tactics. But nobody is talking about what is happening inside Lamine Yamal's head right now. Think about it from his perspective. You are 18 years old. You have spent your entire life working toward one moment, a World Cup on home soil, in North America, in front of the biggest global audience in sports. You have been the best player in the world at your age for 3 consecutive years. And then, in a completely routine moment, scoring a penalty in a league game, your leg gives way and everything you worked for is suddenly in danger. That is a psychological experience that would break most people, and here is where Spain's coach said something this week that I found genuinely remarkable. De La Fuente revealed that Yamal works with a psychologist as part of his daily rehabilitation routine. Not just a physio. Not just a nutritionist. A psychologist. Daily. This tells you 2 things. First, it tells you that Yamal and his team understand that mental recovery is just as important as physical recovery. The fear of re-injury, the anxiety of a countdown clock, the weight of an entire nation's expectations, that is a heavy burden for anyone, let alone a teenager. Second, it tells you that this is a professional operation. Yamal is not just hoping he gets better. He is working every single system available to a modern elite athlete to ensure he arrives at that World Cup in the best possible condition. De La Fuente specifically said that Yamal is thinking about his work 24 hours a day. That level of obsession, channeled correctly with professional support, is what separates great players from legendary ones. And the World Cup in 6 weeks will tell us which category Lamine Yamal truly belongs in. But I want to leave you with one more thought on this. Pressure either reveals character or destroys it. And everything we have seen from Lamine Yamal over the last 3 years, the Euro 2024 goal, the Barcelona captaincy performances, the way he plays without fear in the biggest moments, suggests that pressure does not destroy him. It elevates him. If he arrives at this World Cup even 80% fit, I genuinely believe he will find a way to be the best player in the tournament. Not because of talent alone, but because of what is in his head. And now, as I promised right at the beginning of this video, I want to tell you the old story. The story that goes back further than any injury, further than any World Cup, further than Barcelona or Spain or any contract or trophy. Because to truly understand Lamine Yamal, you need to go back to where he came from. Lamine Yamal was born on July 13, 2007, in Mataró, a small city just outside Barcelona. His father is from Equatorial Guinea. His mother is from Morocco. He grew up in a neighborhood called Rocafonda, a working-class area, not wealthy, not glamorous. A neighborhood where football was not a career option. It was survival. It was identity. It was the one thing that made the world make sense. He joined Barcelona's famous La Masia Academy at the age of 7 years old. And from the very first day, the coaches there said they had never seen anything like it. Not since a young Argentine boy named Lionel Messi had walked through those same doors 2 decades earlier. The comparison started that early. Not from journalists. From the people who trained him every day. What those coaches saw was not just skill. It was fearlessness. Yamal never seemed nervous. Never seemed overwhelmed. Even at 7, 8, 9 years old, he played like he belonged somewhere far bigger than where he was. Like the moment was never too large for him. Fast forward to 2024. The European Championship. Spain vs France. Semi-final. 16 years old. The world watching. And Lamine Yamal does what Lamine Yamal always does. He makes the moment look small. That goal. That curling, precise, audacious goal. It didn't look like the first major tournament goal of a teenager's career. It looked like the 20th goal of a champion who had done it 100 times before. And that is who is sitting in that rehab room right now. Not a fragile teenager scared of the spotlight. A boy from Rocafonda who has been fearless his entire life. Who grew up with nothing and turned it into everything. Who has faced pressure since the age of 7 and has never once flinched. So here is my final thought. Here is the thing I want you to carry with you after this video ends. Lamine Yamal's injury is real. The timeline is tight. The risk of relapse is genuine. Barcelona are nervous. Spain are managing expectations carefully. All of that is true. But in 42 days, when Spain walk out onto that World Cup pitch for the first time, I believe Lamine Yamal will be there. Not at 100% maybe. But there. And I believe that whatever percentage he brings to that tournament will be enough to change games, to change moments, to remind the world why we fell in love with football in the first place. The boy from Rocafonda. The kid in the photograph with Messi. The 16-year-old who scored that goal. He is not done. He is just getting started. May 11th, 4 days from now, the squad list drops. Subscribe right now and hit the bell. Because the moment that list is confirmed, I will be here breaking down every single detail. And if Yamal's name is on it, and I believe it will be, then the real story begins. The 2026 World Cup. Lamine Yamal. 42 days. Let's go.